Hello, and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about current events in sports, military, and business through the lens of leadership. And we're going to talk about the national championship game for the college football playoffs. It just ended last night, January 19th, 2026. And today we're going to talk about this game. It was Miami versus Indiana. It was played in the home stadium of Miami. It's just crazy odds that happening. And we're going to talk about this game. Okay, we're going to talk about how crazy it was that this game happened, how crazy it is that Indiana won. It is a spoiler right there, and how crazy this was overall. It was 10-0 at halftime in favor of Indiana, and in the fourth quarter was all drama. Probably a little bit too much drama on there, but it was a lot of drama. The game ended 27-21. So it was pretty much one touchdown score game. Okay, crazy fourth quarter. Indiana. All right. So I went to Michigan. Most wins of all time in football. Indiana is the most losses of all time in college football. They are the worst program in history of college football. They're the worst. And they're national champions. It's crazy to think that Indiana is national champion of college football in the modern era. It doesn't make any sense. Before the season started, they were 100-1 odds of winning the national championship game. And Miami, because of where they were in rankings, constantly being outside of the top 10 pretty much their entire season, they were 100-1 odds to even get selected. And somehow they leaped Notre Dame. We've talked about that before, and they got in. And they kept winning big games, big time games to get to the national championship game, too. So the odds that these two opponents were going to play against each other, it was not in anyone's cards. It was definitely a treat, crazy game. Okay, and based off those numbers, based off what I just told you, the odds for these teams to get in, we know that leadership had a huge part for both the teams to come play and for the end of the way the game ended. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Okay, so the first reason why Indiana beat Miami is this idea of irrational belief versus delusional hope. Okay, there's a quote from Cignetti, Coach Cignetti, the coach of the Indiana football team. This is only his second season, and he's won a national championship. He said, sometimes belief has to be a little bit irrational. I still remember the clip of when he went to Assembly Hall during Indiana basketball game when he was introduced. He said, "Hey, we're gonna be good. We're gonna compete. We're gonna win Big Ten championships. We're gonna beat Purdue and Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State." And everyone was like, "You're a little crazy." People are laughing at him. He's kind of quirky. He's kind of like me. He's always serious on the sideline, and people just weren't entirely sure of him. But the belief started happening based on the actions, based on how he composed himself, how he would prepare, how he'd bring in people, how he'd coach hard, how he was consistent. The belief started growing. So let's look at this distinction between irrational belief and delusional hype. Irrational belief has to come, but it has to also be partnered with aligned action that is following that vision. And that's what they're doing at Indiana. Whereas delusional hope is belief, but without the preparation, or at least it's all over the place, it's scattered, it's not aligned. And when you look at Indiana, they had massive belief and they had massive work that was being done consistently. Right? That's always the key. How consistent are you consistently over time? Irrational belief is not ignoring reality. Okay, it's committing before you start seeing evidence, and then the confidence grows over time because confidence is a result. We'll talk about confidence here later on. So you have to do the work. Indiana did the work consistently over time, and they got there to the national championship game. The second reason why Indiana beat Miami is this idea of completeness over flash. Miami, they were the hottest team in the college football playoffs. They barely got in, and they were beating big games, big teams over big teams, constantly making it from the first round all the way to the national championship game. They had an experienced quarterback in Beck. They had Fletcher, who was a very good running back. Their defense is scary, right? And they had all this energy. They had all this emotional hype. In fact, before the game, almost all of the selectors selected Miami to win this because they're a hot team. And we see it in college basketball with March Madness. Hot teams are scary. They're just making buckets. And when you're making shots, deep shots, it's hard to stop you. Miami was the same way. They just had a bunch of emotional energy. They were really good. They were really hot. But they have this tendency to self-sabotage. I talked about that in the last episode. Penalties, making mistakes, yeah, turnovers, those type of things. They were prone to doing that. And I'd say, in my opinion, Miami did better than normal. I expect a lot more of them shooting themselves in the foot. They didn't do as much as I thought, but they did still have penalties, personal fouls. I would give first downs to Indiana. They had that missed field goal where it hit the upright and bounced out. The punt, they had a punt that was blocked and returned for a touchdown. When was the last time I've seen that happen in any game here in the national championship game? And then it ended on an interception. The irony of all that. I knew at some point that they were going to make a turnover, and it hadn't happened the whole game. And I remember the last time Miami had the ball, I'm like, they're due for a turnover. Indiana's also due to get a turnover. And sure enough, that's how the game ended. I thought it was going to end on an interception, and it did end on an interception. They lack the complete package, and it just all adds up over time. It just adds up. You look at Indiana, they're not flashy. They don't have all these stars. We talked about that before. They don't have all these stars on the team, but they're complete. The offense is very complete. Their defense is very complete. Their special teams is very complete, as we saw in that game. Okay, it all ended again in an interception. It's crazy how that works. All right. The story of this game. Flash gets you attention. Miami had all types of attention. Everyone's trying to see like the stories. The stories were so interesting. Playing in their home stadium, they barely even got in. Here they are going to the national championship game. It was all flash. The completeness, though, is what gets you a championship. And that's what Indiana had. Now, again, it was a tight game. It could have gone either way. The job of the coaches is to give you a chance to win. I've been in college basketball for many years. I'm a head coach right now in high school basketball, and that's the job. And both coaches did that. But the difference between the identity of the teams, the flashy team and the complete team, it collided right there. And that's why the game was so exciting. But Indiana ended up winning. And this leads us to the third reason why Indiana beat Miami. It's this idea of comfort with discomfort. Comfort with discomfort. I remember this game, especially the first half. The defense, it was a defensive war. Both defenses were very good. Miami's known for the defense. Now they also play in the Atlantic Conference, Atlantic Coast Conference, the ACC. Indiana plays in the Big Ten, which is much more smash mouth football. But it was interesting to watch the first half how the teams reacted. Indiana quarterback Fernando Mendoza, there was some hits on him that definitely should have been flags. They didn't call it, but he didn't seem unsettled. He had blood all over his lip. He was getting all beat up in his elbows, and he just kept going. It's the next play. It's the next play. It's the next play. When they turned to Carson Beck, the quarterback for Miami, who had won championships at Georgia, so he has this experience of playing in big games. There was at least two times when they got 3-0. They got the ball, they went nowhere and had punted. He was coming off. And I remember seeing his face and his lips just saying, "What is going on? Like, what are we running into? What is this team, Indiana?" And I think there was a big difference on just how the teams were prepared. And we see this through the statistics, right? So third down is very important because if you get a third down, if you convert, then you get a fresh set of plays. If you don't, you usually punt. And it's a very important statistic. Both teams had stellar defenses in the first half. But we look at conversion rates. How many did you make? Miami, they had 6 opportunities on third down. They were 0 for 6. They could not convert. They were struggling to deal with this defense that they had to play against with Indiana. Whereas Indiana, who was much more accustomed to playing hard defenses in the Big Ten, they had 8 opportunities. They were 4 for 8. Half of their opportunities they were able to convert. That statistic is very important, especially in the first half. And part of the reason why they were up 10-0. Indiana trains for difficult situations. They were training for this with other big games. They had gone to Iowa City. They had won there. They had won at Penn State. They had beaten Ohio State. They had played very good teams in tough locations. Okay, Miami was just not comfortable. They had to adapt. They did adapt, but it took them time. It took them time where Indiana was already steps ahead. Within the discomfort, let's talk about the discomfort. Miami started getting hot in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. They finally had some breakaway runs. Fletcher did a fantastic job on his feet. And there was points where Indiana needed to keep going to score points and drain the clock. They had a fourth down play, which instead of punting or kicking, they ended up doing a pass play on the sideline. Very gutsy. The running back was falling backwards on his, getting the ball on the outside shoulder away from the defender. Great play, gutsy move, fresh set downs. And then a few plays later, they're 4th down again. And rather than kick a field goal, which they got ready to kick a field goal, and you could tell on the sideline, they're kind of like thinking, what? They called a timeout, take a deep breath, and they said, it's 4th down. I think it was 4th down and 5. We get a field goal, or we can go for it and risk not scoring any points. And they did a play that they had in their hip pocket, saved for special circumstances, where the quarterback does a draw. So it's set up for the quarterback Mendoza to actually run it in to get that 1st down. And not only did he run it in, he dove in for the touchdown after getting hit multiple times. The play was so fantastic that it'll be part of Indiana Hoosier lore forever. It was like a movie. It was that good. Of his twists, his turns, spin move, his dive in the air, getting hit, and they got the touchdown. And that was the game-ending touchdown, right? The last time they were able to score was that big touchdown that he made. So it was a special moment. And that's where preparation met pressure. They had prepared. Part of it was that special play. They had prepared for important moments. Part of it was just them playing against hard defenses and hard environments, having to come back from behind a few times. Like, they were ready for that pressure. Now, it is a gamble. They could have easily not gotten those 1st downs. They could have easily not made that touchdown. They could have easily lost too, because both teams had a chance to win and lose. But they kept at it, and it just worked out in their favor. And part of it is that preparation, being ready for those tough challenges. Okay. I think about my time in the Marine Corps. We train, we train, and we train. We're known for training. We train so much so that by the time you are in combat, your instincts take over. Again, you don't just go up higher. You don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your lowest level of training. And I have experiences that, especially my infantry unit when I was in Iraq. It was very clear that our training was so good that we were just in the moment, working together, cohesive unit. And I saw that a lot with Indiana. They made adjustments. They trusted themselves. They took gambles, but they trusted it. It wasn't gamble for gambling's sake. This is a risk, but we believe in ourselves. We're going to go for it. We're going to make it happen. And that's what they did. The teams that train for difficulties, they're prepared for that. They don't panic when the difficulty arises because they train for it. That's what they do. All right. Most leaders avoid the hard reps. And then when they freeze under pressure, they wonder why. Because they haven't trained for it. It's too easy to train for in easy circumstances, or train in areas that you're comfortable in. Put yourself in areas that are uncomfortable and really test yourself, and you'll see where you are. That's what leadership is ready to do. That's what leadership does, is being prepared for the difficult challenges ahead. Okay, let's move on. The 4th reason why Indiana beat Miami is what I mentioned last video, is the whole idea of production over potential. And no better person to talk about than Fernando Mendoza. Okay. He grew up just outside the university. He's a few blocks from the stadium. He grew up a Miami Hurricane fan. He wanted to go to Miami. We talked about the ranking before at 5 stars. He was only a 2-star. Miami was not interested. They didn't even let him walk on the team. So he did something he never thought he would do. He went somewhere else. He went to the other coast. He ended up at University of California. He was at Cal. He played there, built a whole bunch of production, a lot of data. He was able to transfer for his graduate year. Coach Cignetti brought him to Indiana. And here he is, beating his old team, University of Miami, his old, the team that he was a fan growing up, in the stadium where Miami plays, in the hometown. Like, he literally grew up blocks away and beats that team who didn't want him. He ended up winning the Heisman Trophy. He ended up being a national champion. He's probably the number 1 pick overall in the NFL draft this summer. He was a 2-star. Okay? Miami did not want this 2-star from across the street, and instead they got beat by him years later. This is what happens. Man, just think about the path for Fernando Mendoza. He was not wanted. So he went somewhere else. And along the way, he found people that believed in him. He found coaches who could coach him to his his ability and challenge him and put in areas to show off his ability and talent. But the fact that he had someone believe in him and coach him and put him in tough circumstances, and all that resulted in all these accolades as a 2-star. It's unbelievable what can happen when you have people believe in you and good coaching. It's unbelievable. And production over pedigree. Like the whole idea. Again, Miami overlooked him because he was a 2-star. Look what he can do. And I ask you right now, I have actually 2 questions for you. One is, do you have people that believe in you? Do you have coaches that are coaching you, helping you achieve the things that you really want to do and become the person that you want to be, pushing you in environments to grow, not stay the same? Are you a 2-star Fernando Mendoza who just says, whatever, this is my lot in life? Or are you reaching higher, finding people to believe and coaching you and helping you become that person? And the other question is, what 2-stars do you have around you that you are overlooking, that have way more potential and are putting in the work and are building the data and just need a little bit more attention, a little bit more belief, a little bit more coaching, a little bit more stress in their environments, and they can become the next Heisman? Who are those people? You might be holding yourself back. You might be holding other people back. That's the question I have for you. So let's talk about the main takeaways. Got my college basketball whiteboard here. Let's talk about these main takeaways from this video. So the first one, irrational belief requires action. It starts with belief. And Coach Cignetti went to Indiana believing he could compete in the Big Ten, compete for a national championship, and then took a lot of consistent actions to make it work. Bringing in the right people, having the support from administration, getting the resources he needed, putting it all together. Like, it is a complete package. This doesn't happen by accident. So many teams try to make it happen, force it to happen, cannot make it happen. This is not an overnight success. Even those 2 years, it was years and decades in the making. Okay? Completeness beats flash. Miami was a very hot team, very flashy team. Indiana was very complete. And those little things add up. They stack up. In this case, it ended up Indiana winning by less than a touchdown over Miami. The third one, comfort with discomfort wins. It was very clear, especially in the first half, that Indiana was comfortable being in very uncomfortable, difficult circumstances, and they kept playing that the whole game. Miami had to adjust. They were not used to it. They finally got their stride, but it was a little bit too late. I think if there was another quarter, Miami might have won that game. They probably would have won that game because they were hot. But within that time, a lot of the game, the 4 quarters, Indiana was more consistent and was able to win this game. And finally, where does this come from? All right. If Indiana can do it, you can too. It's unbelievable to think about the worst team, the worst program in college football history winning a national championship. It's amazing what can happen. Again, I talked about it. Coach Cignetti had the belief, but he had the people, the coaches, the administrative support. It reminds me, I have a mastermind on how to become the person to follow through to make those things happen. There's 3 core elements I talk about that masterclass. Check it out. But you better believe Coach Cignetti has all 3 of those, right? No surprise there. And the other part is both teams were so confident showing up. You could see that the way they played, the hunger they had, the confidence is a result of doing things over and over and over again. And it was so fun to watch both teams, very different styles, come and play a very tight game there at the end. And if you're lacking confidence, I can help you. I'm a confident leader boot camp, guaranteed to help you feel and become a confident person. And it's money back guarantee. And don't take my word for it. Look at the testimonials. People like you have transformed their lives by finally becoming confident leaders. I know you can too. So, as we wrap this up, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, be a leader. My name is Daniel Pinedo. Thank you, and until next time.